Salomon v. Salomon and Company, Limited, 1897, AC 22, HL. Citation, 1895-95, All ER Rep 33, 1897, AC 22, House of Lords. 1. Facts. Mr. Aaron Salomon, a leather merchant, had run a successful sole proprietorship. He incorporated a company named Salomon and Company, Limited under the English Companies Act, 1862. The company had 7 subscribers, Salomon himself, his wife, and 5 children, fulfilling the minimum legal requirement. The company purchased Salomon's business, paying him, £10,000 in fully paid-up shares, £10,000 in debentures, secured loan, and some cash. Soon after incorporation, the company became insolvent. Its assets were insufficient to pay its creditors. The liquidator alleged the company was merely Salomon's agent, sham. Salomon should be personally liable for the company's debts. 2. Issues. 1. Is a company validly incorporated even if most shares are held by one person? 2. Can the company be treated as Salomon's agent, making him personally liable? 3. Does the company have a separate legal personality distinct from its members? 3. Held, House of Lords. The House of Lords reversed the lower courts and held. 1. Once incorporated, the company is a separate legal person. The moment the statutory requirements of incorporation are fulfilled, the company is at law a different person altogether from the subscribers. It has its own rights, liabilities, and property. 2. The company was not Salomon's agent. The company acted for itself, not for Salomon personally. 3. Members' motives are irrelevant. If registration is proper, courts cannot inquire into the intention of the members. 4. Salomon cannot be held personally liable. His liability was limited to the amount unpaid on his shares. As a secured debenture holder, he had priority over unsecured creditors. 4. Principle, ratio, doctrine of separate legal entity. A duly incorporated company has an identity separate from its members, directors, shareholders. Limited liability. Members are liable only up to the value of shares they hold. Corporate veil. The decision firmly established that the corporate personality must be respected, except in exceptional cases involving fraud, agency, or improper conduct. 5. Importance of the case. Foundation of modern company law. Basis for separate legal entity limited liability perpetual succession corporate ownership of property. Adopted widely, including in India, influencing cases such as Bachar F. Gusdar v. Cito Levy. Lease Air Farming Limited. 6. Short exam answer, 4 to 6 lines. Salomon v. Salomon, 1897, is the landmark House of Lords case that established the doctrine of separate legal entity. It held that once a company is duly incorporated, it becomes a distinct legal person, even if one shareholder holds the majority of shares. Salomon was not personally liable for the company's debts, and the company was not his agent. This case laid the foundation for limited liability in modern corporate law. If you want, I can also provide a one-page handwritten style note, case chart, or MCQs based on this case. Bennett Coleman and Company, and Oz, v. Union of India and Oz. Citation, 1972-2, S.C. C. 788. 1. Background. During 1972, the Government of India introduced the Newsprint Control Order, 1962 and the Newsprint Policy, 1972-73. These policies, fixed the maximum number of pages for newspapers, imposed page ceilings, controlled newsprint quotas, and restricted the right to start new editions or expand circulation. The petitioners included Bennett Coleman and Company, the publisher of the Times of India, and other newspaper groups. They challenged the policy under Article 32, claiming that these restrictions violated freedom of speech and expression, Art. 19, 1a. 2. Issues. 1. Does the newsprint policy violate Article 19, 1a, freedom of speech and expression? 2. Can the government justify such restrictions under Article 19, 2? 3. Is freedom of the press merely the freedom of an individual, or does a corporate body also enjoy this right? 3. Arguments. Petitioners. Page limits restrict content. Right pointing arrow directly affect freedom of expression. Control on newsprint quantity. Right pointing arrow limits circulation and growth of newspapers. The policy was not a reasonable restriction under Article 19(2). Government claimed objective was equitable distribution of scarce newsprint. Argued that corporate entities like companies cannot claim fundamental rights restricted to citizens. 4. Held Supreme Court majority judgment. 1. Newsprint policy violates Article 19(1)(a). Page ceiling and quota restrictions directly affect the content of newspapers. Reducing pages forces reduction in news, views, and opinions, fundamentally harming press freedom. 2. The restrictions are not saved by Article 19(2). The government argued a justification based on public interest. SC held that Article 19(2) lists exhaustive grounds, and equitable distribution is not one of them. 3. Freedom of the press is part of Article 19(1)(a). Even though a company is not a citizen, freedom of the press is exercised through corporate entities, so newspapers can challenge violations. 4. Indirect restrictions are also unconstitutional. Even if the order did not directly censor content, any measure that curtails circulation, growth, or financial viability of the press is unconstitutional. 5. Key principles, ratio. 1. Freedom of the press equals essential part of Article 19(1)(a). 2. Page limits and newsprint quotas impair editorial freedom. 3. Indirect control equals censorship. 4. Reasonable restriction must fall strictly within Article 19(2). 5. Companies owning newspapers can enforce fundamental rights of the press. 6. Importance. This case is a milestone in protecting press autonomy. It established that government cannot regulate the press by controlling resources essential to its functioning. Often cited with O Indian Express Newspapers v. Union of India O Express Newspapers v. Union of India Union o it. This importance. This case is a milestone in protecting press autonomy. It established that government cannot regulate the press by controlling resources essential to its functioning. Often cited with O Indian Express Newspapers v. Union of India O Express Newspapers v. Union of India. 7. Short 4 to 5 line exam answer. In Bennett Coleman v. Union of India, 1972, the Supreme Court struck down the newsprint policy of 1972-73, holding that page ceiling and quota restrictions violated Article 19(1)(a), as they directly curtailed freedom of the press. The restrictions were not covered by Article 19(2). The court held the restriction. Union of India, 1972, the Supreme Court struck down the newsprint policy of 1972-73, holding that page ceiling and quota restrictions violated Article 19(1)(a), as they directly curtailed freedom of the press. The restrictions were not covered by Article 19(2). The court held that freedom of the press includes the right to publish, circulate, and expand, and even corporate newspaper companies can enforce this right. This case remains a cornerstone of press freedom jurisprudence. If you want, I can. Daimler Company, Limited v. Continental Tire and Rubber Co. Great Britain, Limited. Citation: 1916 AC 307, HL, 1916-17, All ER Rep 191. 1. Background, facts. Continental Tire and Rubber Co. Great Britain, Limited was a company registered in England. Almost all its shareholders and directors were German nationals. The company supplied tires to Daimler Company, Limited, an English company. During World War I, trading with enemy subjects was prohibited under English law. Daimler refused to pay for the tires, arguing that, although the company was incorporated in England, or its real control was in the hands of German nationals, or hence it had an enemy character, and payment would amount to trading with the enemy. The respondent company sued Daimler for recovery of payment. 2. Issues. 1. Can a company incorporated in England be treated as an enemy for purposes of wartime regulations? 2. Should the corporate veil be lifted to determine the real character of the company? 3. Held House of Lords. Yes, the company may be treated as having an enemy character. The House of Lords ruled. Although the company was incorporated in England and usually treated as a separate legal entity, it was controlled entirely by German shareholders and directors during wartime. Although the House of Lords ruled. Although the company was incorporated in England and usually treated as a separate legal entity, it was controlled entirely by German shareholders and directors during wartime. Since control and management were in enemy hands, the company was, for practical purposes, an enemy company. Therefore, payment to such a company would amount to trading with the enemy, which was prohibited. Daimler Company was justified in refusing payment. 4. Principal, ratio. 1. Lifting of corporate veil, enemy character, exception. The court will disregard the company's separate personality when required by public interest, national security, or wartime considerations. 2. Control test. The nationality of a company may be determined by the place of control, not just the place of incorporation. 3. Separate legal entity is not absolute. Corporate personality can be ignored to prevent fraud, evasion of law, threat to national security, or sustaining an enemy enterprise. 5. Significance. One of the earliest and most frequently cited cases for lifting the corporate veil recognized that public policy and national security override strict corporate separateness. Adopted in Indian jurisprudence, especially in cases involving fraud, beneficial ownership, or public interest. 6. Short exam proof answer, 4 to 5 lines. In Daimler Company v. Continental Tire, 1916, the House of Lords held that a company, though incorporated in England, could be treated as an enemy if its controlling shareholders and directors were enemy nationals during wartime. The court lifted the corporate veil to determine its real character and held that Daimler was justified in refusing payment. The case is a classic example of veil-lifting based on public interest in national security. If you want, I can also prepare on-page summary, diagram explanation for enemy character test, comparison with Salomon, Skipper construction, MCQs for exam practice. As a clear, concise, exam-ready case note for the famous corporate personality case. Lee v. Lee's Air Farming Limited, 1960. 3 all 420, PC. 1. Facts. Mr. Lee formed a company called Lee's Air Farming Limited, engaged in aerial top dressing, crop dusting. The company had one shareholder, Mr. Lee, held almost all shares, one governing director, Mr. Lee, chief pilot, also Mr. Lee. Thus, he had multiple roles, owner, director, and employee pilot. During a flying assignment, Mr. Lee died in an air crash. His widow claimed workers' compensation, arguing he died in the course of employment. The insurance company argued, he could not be an employee of his own company, because he was the company. 2. Issues. 1. Can a person who controls an entire company also be its employee? 2. Does the principle of separate legal entity allow a contract of service between the company and its controller? 3. Held Privy Council. Yes, Mr. Lee was an employee of the company. The company was a separate legal entity, distinct from Mr. Lee. A valid contract of service existed between employer, the company, employee, Mr. Lee. Even if one person controls the company, corporate personality remains intact. Therefore, the widow was entitled to workers' compensation. 4. Principle, ratio. 1. Reinforcement of the separate legal entity doctrine. A company is distinct from its shareholders, director, even if one person owns and controls the entire business. 2. One person can have multiple legal capacities. Mr. Lee could simultaneously be majority shareholder, governing director, employee, pilot. 3. Valid contract of employment possible. As the company is a different, legal person, it can enter into a contract of service with its controller. 5. Significance. A major post-Salomon authority strengthening corporate personality. Often cited in India in cases involving director-employee relationships, corporate autonomy, insurance, compensation claims. 6. Short exam answer, 4 to 5 lines. In Lee v. Lee's Air Farming, 1960, the Privy Council held that a company is a separate legal person, and its controlling shareholder can also be its employee. Mr. Lee, though the sole shareholder and director, had a valid contract of service with the company. His widow was entitled to workers' compensation. The case reinforces the Salomon doctrine and the independence of corporate personality. If you want, I can also give one page. In re Sir Dinshaw Manekji Petty. Citation. A 1927 Bom 371, Bombay High Court. 1. Citation. In re. Below is a precise, exam-oriented case note for in re Sir Dinshaw Manekji Petty, a 1927 Bom 371, one of the most important Indian cases on lifting the corporate veil, tax evasion. In re Sir Dinshaw Manekji Petty. Citation. A 1927 Bom 371, Bombay High Court. 1. Facts. Sir Dinshaw Manekji Petty, a wealthy individual, had significant income from dividends and interest. To avoid paying income tax, he created 4 private companies. These companies, O had no real business, O had no assets except those transferred by Sir Dinshaw. O did no work and were mere shells. Sir Dinshaw transferred his investments to these companies and arranged that all the companies would pay him almost the entire income back as loans. The Income Tax Department claimed this was a mere device to evade tax. 2. Issues. 1. Whether the companies were genuine business entities or mere shams, block companies. 2. Can the corporate veil be lifted to assess tax liability on Sir Dinshaw himself? 3. Held, Bombay High Court. Yes, the corporate veil must be lifted. Sir Dinshaw was the real owner. The 4 companies were not genuine business entities. They had no commercial purpose, no real business, no independent volition. They were created solely as tax-evading devices. Therefore, they had no commercial purpose, no real business, no independent volition. They were created solely as tax-evading devices. Therefore, the court ignored the separate corporate personality. The income of the companies was actually Sir Dinshaw's income, and he was liable to pay tax. 4. Principal, ratio. 1. Corporate veil lifted for tax evasion. When a company is created simply to evade tax, courts may treat it as non-existent. 2. Sham, facade companies. If a company has no real business purpose, exists only as a conduit for the owner's income, then it is a sham, and courts may look at the substance over form. 3. Landmark Indian precedent for veil lifting. This is one of the earliest Indian cases establishing that corporate personality cannot be used to commit fraud or evade law. 5. Importance. Classic Indian case applied in O tax law, O company law, O cases of sham or dummy corporations, O instances of statutory evasion. Forms a foundational basis for veil lifting along with O Daimler Company v. Continental Tire, 1916, O Workman v. Associated Rubber Industries, 1986, O Skipper Construction Case. 6. Short exam answer, 4 to 5 lines. In re Sir Dinshaw Manekji Petty, AIR 1927 Bom 371, the Bombay High Court lifted the corporate veil because the assessee created 4 shell companies solely to avoid tax. These companies had no real business and were mere nominees of Sir Dinshaw. The court held the income to be his own and made him personally liable. The case is a leading Indian precedent on veil lifting in situations of tax evasion and sham corporations. If you want, I can also prepare a comparative table of all veil lifting cases, a 1-page revision sheet on corporate personality, or MCQs for practice. Below is an exam-ready, structured, concise case note for the important veil lifting decision. Workman v. Associated Rubber Industries Limited. Citations. 1985-4 S.C. C11. 1986-59 Comcast 134 SC. 1. Facts. Associated Rubber Industries Limited had a wholly-owned subsidiary named New City of Bombay Manufacturing Company Limited. Opening parenthesis. NCBM Company. The subsidiary had no real business. It existed only to hold certain investments and shares. The parent company claimed certain tax benefits, rebate on dividend income, by routing investments through the subsidiary. The workman argued that the company had artificially diverted profits to its subsidiary to reduce bonus liability payable to workmen under the Payment of Bonus Act, 1965. Essentially, The subsidiary was being used as a device to reduce the profits of the parent company and thereby lower employees' statutory bonus. 2. Issues. 1. Can the court lift the corporate veil between a parent company and its wholly-owned subsidiary? 2. Was the subsidiary created merely to evade statutory obligations, bonus payments? 3. Held, Supreme Court of India. Yes, the corporate veil must be lifted. The Supreme Court held, the subsidiary, NCBM Company, was a sham and created only as a tax avoidance and profit diversion device. It had no separate and independent business. The parent company was using the subsidiary to, or reduce its taxable profits, or and thereby reduce statutory bonus payable to workmen. Therefore, the court ignored the separate personality of the subsidiary. Profits of the subsidiary were treated as profits of the parent company for calculating bonus. 4. Principle, Ratio. 1. Lifting of the corporate veil, prevention of statutory evasion. Courts will disregard corporate personality when a company is used to defeat labor welfare legislation, to commit tax avoidance, or to evade statutory obligations. 2. Sham or dummy subsidiaries. Where a subsidiary is financially dependent, controlled completely by the parent, has no genuine commercial activity. It may be treated as part of the parent company. 3. Protection of workmen. The courts interpret company structures in favor of labor welfare statutes, especially where profit manipulation affects bonus or wages. 5. Significance. Landmark Indian case in corporate veil lifting, especially in labor law or taxation. Group company manipulation. Reinforces principle that corporate form cannot be misused to circumvent social welfare legislation. Often cited with Dinshaw petty, tax evasion, Skipper construction, fraud, Daimler, enemy character. 6. Short exam answer, 4 to 5 lines. In Workman v. Associated Rubber Industries, 1985, the Supreme Court lifted the corporate veil between a parent company and its wholly-owned subsidiary which existed merely to divert profits and reduce bonus liability under the Bonus Act. The subsidiary had no real business and was a sham. The court treated the subsidiary's profits as those of the parent. The case is a leading example of veil lifting to prevent evasion of labor welfare law. If you want, I can also prepare a consolidated chart of all veil lifting cases for quick revision. Here is a clear, exam-ready, authoritative case note for Guilford Motor Company Limited v. Hon 1933, 1ch 935, one of the classic veil-lifting cases used in Indian and English company law. Guilford Motor Company Limited v. Hon. Citation 1933, 1ch 935, CA. 1. Facts. Mr. Horn was employed as the managing director of Guilford Motor Company Limited. His employment contract contained a non-solicitation clause. After leaving the company, he would not solicit the customers of Guilford Motor. After termination, Horn wanted to continue dealing with the same customers. To circumvent the restrictive covenant, he formed a new company, J.M. Horn and Company, put the business in his wife's and a friend's names, used this company to solicit Guilford Motor's customers. Guilford Motor sued, claiming that the new company was merely a sham created to evade contractual obligations. 2. Issues. 1. Was the company created by Horn merely a facade to breach his contractual obligations? 2. Should the court lift the corporate veil to restrain Horn from soliciting customers in violation of the covenant? 3. Held, Court of Appeal. Yes, the company was a sham, facade, veil must be lifted. The new company was formed deliberately to evade Horn's contractual obligations. It was a cloak, or device, created to mask his wrongful conduct. The court lifted the corporate veil and granted an injunction restraining both Horn and his company from soliciting customers of Guilford Motor. 4. Principle, Ratio. 1. Corporate veil lifted for evasion of legal, contractual obligations. When a company is created as a mere device to avoid a legal duty, courts are justified in ignoring corporate personality. 2. Sham, facade company doctrine. A company that exists only on paper, is used to conceal wrongdoing, or shields a person from existing obligations. will not be treated as a separate legal entity. 3. Fraud prevention principle. Equity will not permit a company to be used as an instrument of fraud. 5. Significance. A landmark English case frequently cited in India for whale lifting in cases of fraud, or evasion of contractual obligations, or abuse of company form. Considered along with Jones v. Lipman, 1962, Denshaw Petty Skipper Construction as leading sham company cases. 6. Short 4 to 5 line exam answer. In Guilford Motor Company v. Horn, 1933, the Court of Appeal held that a company set up by a former employee to evade a non-solicitation clause was a mere sham. The veil was lifted, treating the company as Horn himself. An injunction was issued restraining both from soliciting customers. This case is a classic example of corporate veil lifting to prevent evasion of legal obligations. If you want, I can also provide a consolidated list of veil lifting cases with their principles, perfect for a 5 to 10 mark exam question. Here is a crisp, exam-oriented case note for Subra Mukherjee v. Bharat Coking Coal Limited, 2003, S.C.C. 312, an important Indian decision on lifting the corporate veil in cases of fraud and Benami transactions. Subra Mukherjee v. Bharat Coking Coal Limited. Citation, 2003, S.C.C. 312, Supreme Court of India. 1. Facts. Bharat Coking Coal Limited, BCCL, had initiated proceedings to acquire certain land for its mining operations. The land stood in the name of a private company owned by members of the Mukherjee family. Subra Mukherjee, the appellant, claimed ownership through this company and argued that BCCL could not acquire the land, or the land belonged to a separate legal entity, the private company, or not to the individuals behind it. BCCL contended that the company was a sham, Benami concern, created only to evade land acquisition and statutory obligations, and the real owners were the Mukherjee family members themselves. 2. Issues. 1. Was the company a genuine independent entity or merely a facade created to avoid legal obligations? 2. Should the court lift the corporate veil to determine the true ownership of the land? 3. Held, Supreme Court. The Supreme Court lifted the corporate veil. The company did not carry on any real business. It was set up as a Benami front to hold land for the individual family members. Its separate personality was being used as a device to defeat the provisions of the Coal Mines, Nationalization Act and land acquisition laws. Therefore, the land was treated as being owned by the real individuals, not the company. BCCL was entitled to consider the land as part of its acquisition process. 4. Principle, ratio. 1. Veil may be lifted where corporate personality is used for fraud, Benami transactions, concealment of true ownership, evasion of statutory obligations. 2. Substance over form. Courts will look at the real relationship and purpose behind incorporation. 3. Protection of public interest. Where the corporate structure is misused to obstruct statutory schemes, e.g., nationalization, acquisition, the court will intervene. 5. Significance. One of the leading modern Indian authorities for veil lifting in Benami and fraudulent corporate setups. Strengthens earlier principles from Denshaw Petty, 1927, Sham Companies for Tax Evasion, Guilford Motor, 1933, Sham Company to Avoid Legal Obligations, Workman v. Associated Rubber, 1985, Diversion of Profits to a Subsidiary. Clarifies that separate legal entity is not absolute and cannot be used to defeat public policy. 6. Short 4 to 5 line exam answer. In Subra Mukherjee v. BCCL, 2000, the Supreme Court lifted the corporate veil after finding that the company holding the land was merely a Benami entity created to evade land acquisition and statutory obligations. The company had no real business and existed only as a facade. The land was treated as belonging to the real individuals, enabling BCCL to proceed. The case is a key authority for veil lifting in cases of fraud and Benami transactions. If you want, I can also prepare a one-page sheet of all veil lifting cases for quick revision.